4 days after the Senate passed the House GOP bill to continue funding the federal government, well, guess what? House Democrats kicked off a Medicaid Day of Action to call attention to expected deep cuts to the federal program that provides health care to 70 million Americans. Congresswoman Yvette Clarke, chair of the Congressional Black Caucus, made it clear that House Democrats are committed to protecting Medicaid from Republicans.
We all know why we've gathered here today, and that is to address the partisan spending bill congressional Republicans passed that represents an extremely direct, extremely dangerous attack on veterans, families, seniors, and everyday New Yorkers. We can call this attack what it is with certainty because it is an assault on health care of our neighbors that depend on it just to live. Health care in our nation was promised to them. And so I'm proud to stand at Leader Jeffries' side for this Medicaid Day of Action, just as I am proud to call myself a colleague to Democrats across this nation who are speaking the same message we are today, relaying the same dangers of this spending bill and standing for the same people and families it will hurt. I also serve on the Committee of Jurisdiction for Health Care in the House of Representatives, the Energy and Commerce Committee. And we have been sent a mandate essentially to cut $880 billion from the federal budget in order to provide space in the budget for the trillions of tax cuts to the wealthiest in the United States of America. This is a humanitarian crisis. And unfortunately, there is a move afoot to make sure that we all are impacted by these draconian cuts. We've engaged in this national mission to speak to millions of Americans across the country who have lived good, decent lives, the people who are now at risk of losing their health care and housing, safer communities, and retirement security due to the cuts made by those who haven't come close to the same standard of decency. In the face of this latest scheme to slash Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security to pay for tax breaks for billionaires, know that House Democrats will use every tool at our disposal to stop this devastating scheme, but it requires all of us. It is clear that Republicans have put a bullseye on the most vulnerable Americans among us, and we will not sit down and stay quiet while they do. In New York's 9th District alone, the community that I've called home my entire life, cuts to Medicaid will severely impact over 65,000 people over the age of 65, 24,000 disabled children and adults, 146,000 young adults, 85,000 parents and caretakers, 149,000 children, and 11,000 pregnant women. And those numbers up, we can see that these cuts will hurt roughly 500,000 people within my district alone. That's almost half of our district. There are real people who will lose more than $5 million in Medicaid benefits and the services they rely on. I can tell you that you'll see similar disturbing figures across this nation. Republicans continue to rob Americans to fill the pockets of the rich, and their actions are costing lives. Democrats will continue to fight back by holding Republicans accountable. And let me just close with this. Human beings are human beings. They are born into this world without party affiliation. This is going to impact all Americans, all of us. The cascading effect of cutting $880 billion out of health care will not only mean the threat to our health and well-being, It will mean higher unemployment. It will mean the closure of hospitals and federally qualified healthcare institutions within our communities. It will mean devastation at every turn. We have just recovered from a pandemic. We're seeing the outbreak of measles across this nation. This is not the time for the most wealthiest in our nation, the top 1%, to line their pockets at the expense of the health and well-being of the people of the United States. It's time to stand up. It's time to fight back.
All right, folks, let's get into it with our panel. Joining us on today's show, Dr. Mustafa Santiago Ali, former senior advisor for environmental justice at the EPA. Joining us out of D.C., Morgan Harper, director of policy and advocacy for the American Economic Liberties Project from Columbus, Ohio. Dr. Larry Walker, assistant professor, University of Central Florida, joining us out of Orlando. Glad to have all three of you here. Morgan, I'm going to start with you. Bottom line here is that Republicans, they want to make these cuts. They want to have these massive tax cuts. And if there is in a moment where, sure, you had CBC members there, but this is where, if you're Democrats, you absolutely turn old, white, conservative Republicans against their own members.
Well, I completely agree that this is an issue, and like we heard from the Congresswoman, this is an issue that impacts everyone. We heard from CBC members there, but I can say very clearly in Ohio, I talk to people all the time from all different backgrounds and really all different working situations, which I think is an important thing to note, that rely on Medicaid. We just had a town hall last night in Columbus where we were hearing from seniors their concerns about, the threats to Social Security. So this is very real. This is going to impact everyone. And I think it's a smart angle to unite people around the impacts of some of these moves, not just keep it at the finger pointing of the political parties.
Well, absolutely. And look, it's going to be a significant battle. And I'm telling you right now, look, all they need are to flip 3 to 4 people, Mustafa. And guess what? You know who I'm targeting? Every single Republican in the state of Florida.
Yeah, that would actually be a really smart strategy. It's interesting that when folks are talking about these cuts, they forget, that these federal dollars in many instances also go to the states. The states then also have some of their own matching funds that are a part of this. And when you begin to make these cuts, you begin to destabilize the states. You begin to, as the Congresswoman was sharing also, we know that we've already had the shutting down of rural clinics and hospitals in urban settings, and that we need to actually be investing more dollars into our healthcare system to keep our folks healthier, because we know that when we look at the studies that are done on an international level, that we're not at the top of the list in relationship to keeping people safe. And then when we look at our most vulnerable communities, we understand all of the cumulative impacts that are going on inside of those communities that impact people's health. So this is one of the ways that they are destabilizing our government, are actually destabilizing the lives of people through government actions. And I would, as you said, focus on these Republican senators and others who are running for office and say, is this your mandate? Do you want the people inside of your state to be less healthy, to be less protective? And of course, they're going to have to say no at some point, or they're going to get voted out.
Larry.
So, Roland, I would remind folks that we're just a few months out from the election. It hasn't been that long. And I'm glad, you see the chair of the CBC and, Minority Leader Jeffries talking about the impact that this will devastate the social safety net. And Roland, in addition to that, if we're likely to encounter a recession, this country would experience a serious depression that we haven't experienced in years. And so the fight for Democrats remains. But I think that the challenge is that a lot of these people, even though you hear some people talk about town halls, some people scuttlebutt, people complaining. A reminder, once again, these people voted knowing, when we talk about Project 2025, we talk about a lot of the rhetoric in terms of, President Trump and then Elon Musk talking about there's going to be pain. This was said repeatedly. And now here we are. And once again, with conversation among, people in the Black community, a lot of this, for those who voted for this, believe that these impacts will disproportionately impact Black people, and maybe they will percentage-wise. But you look at Speaker Johnson's, you look at his district, this will devastate the people in his district. But those same individuals voted him in, voted for these other individuals for president and these other elected officials at the state level, and here we are. So, yeah, we have to continue to talk to Americans about how devastating this could be, not only short-term, but a long-term impact it would have on the United States as a viable superpower when you remove the social safety net. But it's also a reminder we need to have a really serious conversation about whiteness in this country, and then the appearance that when you take away things, that it only impacts one community. And until we have that conversation and really, really have a deep discussion among why people have these views that if it's bad for you, it's good for me, then we'll still face the same issue year after year.
Well, which is why I believe it's important to take the fight to them. And literally, if you're Democrats, hold hearings in his district to alert his folks what's coming.
Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. And right now, we're accepting investors in our $17 million round to revolutionize the future of social media. Today, for just $399, you can own 60 shares of stock in Fanbase at $665 a share. Go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest today. While the big platforms have grown too massive and disconnected from their users, Fanbase is building a platform where creators and users truly come first. We've already raised $8.6 million from everyday investors who believe in this vision, and now you can join them. This is your chance to invest in a social media tech company with over 1 million users that is disrupting media by allowing anyone to reach all of their following and monetize their content from day one. The market is changing, big platforms are failing to serve their users, and Fanbase is stepping up to fill the gap. Don't wait until it's too late. Invest now. Invest for yourself and your future. Go to startengine.com/fanbase and own the future of social media.